So our first stop today is Llanwrthlyn. In the 14th century, a Welsh adaptation of Malory's work known as The Welsh Birth of Arthur describes how Arthur was brought here as a child and fostered until he was 14 years old. Caer Gai is a Roman fort nearby which is associated heavily by some writers with Arthur's childhood.
Yeah, but not much remains of it. It's not even on our map.
Well, the one thing about filming in a studio in Cardiff for 8 months is that you obviously don't get to see much of the countryside, and you kind of don't get the chance to appreciate how impressive it is.
You get the opportunity to kind of come up here, up in North Wales, where we've never been before, and see this. It's absolutely stunning.
Well, if this is the area where Arthur grew up, it's not exactly a bad place to grow up, is it? It's quite nice. I wouldn't complain.
We're here at Llanwrthlyn Railway, waiting to take the train around Bala Lake.
We thought we'd take the train to mix it up a bit because we did such a vast amount of driving yesterday. So we thought we'd mix up our Arthurian Legends tour with a bit of train action.
This might shake our world up a bit.
Shake our world up a bit, yes. Yes, it might.
Sadly, although it would have been wonderfully poetic, Bala Lake has no connections to the lady in the lake mentioned in Arthurian romance. But it is quite an apt place for us to collect our thoughts.
Well, it was great getting to speak to Scott, wasn't it? Because especially since he mapped out these areas where we can go and visit now, so we've got a clear journey.
There are a lot of regions that have their versions of the story. They all sort of have originated from somewhere, and it's just that the stories have been told in different ways. And of course, we're sort of touring the Welsh countryside, so he gave us some great places to kind of check out where the myths have been created.
The more you become immersed in the Arthurian setting, the more these stories seem to come alive. This really is where the legend meets fact, where the drama meets reality.
It would be nice to believe that at some point there was a man who the legend is, even if it's sort of remotely based on it, that it was, that started it all off.
So after this, we're going to go there.
That's the battlefield where Arthur fought the giant.
Yeah, and then we go on to Camlin, which is where Arthur's last stand was.
From Llanwrthlyn, we are back on the road again and taking a steep climb up to Bolcagroes. When we finally reach the summit, we'll find the setting of a folk tale written in 1597. It's said that this is where Arthur battled one of Wales' most fierce giants.
We've stopped just because of kind of this viewpoint, and I think the sun kind of ceremoniously kind of highlighting it for us at the time. It's a very beautiful part of the world where we are.
Typical. Just as I was enjoying the scenery, a word from our producer.
Just to reiterate again, a couple of people have now told us this is quite a dangerous road, so do be careful, gents. Thank you.
Hi, Arthurian legend seekers. We've just been informed that we're travelling up a very dangerous road, which I'm not too sure of the reasons as of yet. One magpie, it's not a good sign. But don't worry, because Bradley's at the wheel, and that means everything's going to be A-OK. Isn't it, Colin?
Oh, now I can see what he's talking about. Yeah, I'd better keep my eyes on the road, I think. Now, if Arthur had to make his way up here on foot, it would have certainly taken his breath away. It has mine, but for very different reasons.
This is ridiculous. The sheep are so blasé about it all, aren't they? The story is here that there was a giant, and this is where he dwelled, and every time he killed a knight, he would take his beard, and he had a collection of these things, and he made a cloak out of it, and it was his, it was his trophy piece. And the one beard he was after was Arthur's, and Arthur didn't want this giant sort of taking any more lives, killing any more of his knights, so he must have, rode his way up here on horseback, and he fought the giant. And I suppose if you were to go for an epic battle, this would be a perfect setting for it.
Just looking at the landscape, you can imagine the epic battles that raged throughout Arthur's time.
This has been like this for hundreds and hundreds of years. I mean, did Arthur stand up here and look out and see the same thing we're looking at now?
Although there is no physical evidence to prove the existence of the legend, our next location might yield some spiritual clues.
Our final stop for this evening is the short drive to Camlan. But once again, our leisurely tour has made us late, and night has beaten us to it.
It's a shame we can't see enough of it.
But yeah, this is supposedly where his final battle was, and we're here to meet a chap who's going to help us find out where he fell.
Arthur is said to have fallen in battle in a place called Camlan, although there is no indication where this is, though it is mentioned in the Gwynedd-centric Historia Brittonum, written in the 9th century in Gwynedd, so that would make where we are quite a probable location.
To find Arthur's last stand, we're going to use the technique of dowsing, also known as divining. We'll be looking for mystical paths of energy called ley lines. And one person who's not only convinced that Arthur was real, but also that this is the site of his last battle, is author Lawrence Mayne.
So this is where Arthur's last battle took place?
Oh yes, definitely, we know that. We know it because of the place name, for a start. This field here, to my right, is Maes Camlan, which has been called that for centuries. All the place names around here date from King Arthur's day. The hillside over there, for instance, is called Bryn Cleifion, means the hillside of the wounded.
So what actually happened here?
Well, according to Harleian manuscript 4181, entry 42, this is where Ida Elin Mao mortally wounded King Arthur. Now, when you're ready, you can start to walk around the stone. Now, think of the lay, and I'm going to make it more definite still. Think of the most important lay, the primary lay. When you see them crossing, stop, and let's see where you are. Okay, off you go.
Apparently, there are some in this area that pinpoint to the exact spot where he fell. And I promise you, ladies and gentlemen, this is not a setup.
Yes, they're crossing. Can we get that on camera? Well, you can see mine crossing the same. Colin, will you come in, please? When your rods cross, stop. Get the exact spot where they're crossing. Go forward, just you, Colin. That's it. Now, do you see there is a straight line, 3 of us? We've all dowsed the same lay. This, indeed, is the primary lay.
I think it's important to keep an open mind, and it's there seems to be something going on here. I can't really explain what it is, but yeah, it's a good job we have you here to explain it for us.
There's something happening, 3 of us in a straight line, and if we were to look upon this line, and if it was daylight and the leaves were off the trees in wintertime, you'd see where it was going.
Right, and where's that?
Now get this, it's going straight to the church where King Arthur died. The church of his very own nephew, Saint Tydaco at Machloed.
Right, very good. Which we can't see because it's very dark, because we turned up late. But still, it's been a pleasure. So thank you very much, Lawrence.
Oh, you're welcome.
Much appreciated.
And you, Colin.
Thank you very much.
The best thing about that was kind of seeing Lawrence's enthusiasm for it. Whenever someone's got that amount of enthusiasm for it, it can't help but rub off on you. It was good. It was interesting. It was good fun. I didn't know what was going to happen, and
Yeah, but that's the thing. I mean, I wasn't quite sure what to expect. Well, neither of us were quite sure what to expect. But there's no denying that something was going on there. I think we're getting there.
yeah, we've learnt a lot, and with one day to go, there's still more to learn.
Yeah.
About the Welsh take on Arthurian legend.
Well, it's our third and final day, and it's been quite a tour so far. We've swatted up on books, we've seen legendary backdrops, and we've also been doing strange things in the dark.
But despite meeting two very passionate people, we still have no solid proof.
Today we're heading back down south to Caerleon, and according to Geoffrey of Monmouth in his History of the Kings of Britain, this is the location of the court of Arthur.
Geoffrey describes it as being admirably positioned on the River Usk, not far from the mouth of the River Severn in Glamorgan. Maybe there we'll unearth something more substantial.
And to tell us more is the curator of the museum, Mark Lewis.
This is the Roman amphitheatre of the Roman fortress. It was constructed about AD 80, but we know it was still standing in the early medieval period and wasn't actually finally demolished and became a ruin until around 1300, about that sort of time. So it stood pretty much as you see it today throughout the Arthurian period, the period that you've been looking at on your travels.
So what specifically links this to Arthur?
Arthur was connected to Caerleon by Geoffrey of Monmouth, who said that he held court here, and he gives a very, very full account of a great feast and games that were held just outside the fortress walls that you can see. And that link with Arthur meant that this round structure in its ruinous state outside the walls became eventually known as his Round Table, and this was always known as the Round Table Field.
So when was this excavated?
This was actually excavated in the late 1920s by Sir Mortimer Wheeler and his wife Tessa Verney Wheeler.
Okay, and what did they actually find when...
They discovered the Roman arena floor where we're standing. They had to empty out this space, which had become filled with the debris from the arena and the banks, and they actually found the sand arena floor where the gladiators and the animals once fought, but they found that there was very little evidence that anybody had been here since the end of the Roman period until about 1400, when they started robbing the walls for building stone.
So no round table then?
They found no actual round table.
Wow.
So, no round table, and no real proof that Arthur and Merlin ever existed.
I think 3 days to get a definitive answer as to whether there was a real Arthur, there was a real Merlin. Maybe we were a bit ambitious, but maybe it doesn't matter because, the legends are always going to be there. They're always going to be reinvented and reinterpreted, and maybe you don't need a final answer for it because that's what it's all about. Their stories are there to be enjoyed.
The stories of Arthur and Merlin, with or without Camelot, with or without the Round Table and the Holy Grail, are Wales's great gift to Western European mythology.
Wherever you go, someone has a way of telling the story, and it has inspired people from all over the place to tell that story.
The inspiration for the legends has obviously come from something. Geoffrey of Monmouth picked that up and he retold it. It's been retold again. It's been added to over the centuries, and we're very much doing that with our show as well. It's picking it up, and it definitely after these 3 days it feels like we're part of that as well.
And also it's great to get out into Wales and see how much the legends of King Arthur and the stories of Merlin and Arthurian legend have inspired people across Wales.
We'll discover a magical world of myths and legend inspired by Merlin with 4 new interactive storybooks. Go to bbc.co.uk/Wales and click on Myths.